So our top 5 destinations that we've picked for the best place to take a family holiday in Central America includes Cuba, Mexico, Baja California, Belize, and Costa Rica. So I'm going to now hand you over to Ben, who's going to talk to you a little bit about Cuba. Over to you, Ben.
Hi, thanks, Laura. So Cuba, actually following on from what Laura was saying, one of the biggest highlights is the people, and they are so welcoming. That Caribbean kind of atmosphere, it's in everyone's blood, and for families, it's really, really great. Like Laura was saying, people are really inquisitive, and so whatever the age of the family, whether the children are young or teenagers, the exchange, the living amongst the locals is a real highlight. There are also loads of activities, really wherever you go, whether you're in the countryside or the beaches or in the cities, lots and lots of things to do, from soft adventure to more cultural things, so again, things to please children and adults, because the parents are on holiday as well. So things to please everyone. Havana is iconic. I think everyone loves to get in these old cars and photograph them, have photos taken with them. That's an absolute experience that everyone should take. There's music everywhere as well, which is great, fantastic. Everyone likes music and dance. I think children in particular, if they're young, or teenagers who perhaps are learning music themselves. And it's really everywhere. You literally just stumble across bands playing in the street. I remember when I first went to Trinidad, I just couldn't believe the quality of the Afro jazz that you would hear just coming out of a random sort of semi-derelict house, because so many people play music there. I mentioned the countryside earlier, and the countryside is stunning. This is really a couple of hours from Havana. There's an area called Vinales, which is the main tobacco growing region. So of course, I'm sure you don't want to promote tobacco to the children, but whatever age they are. The scenery is absolutely beautiful, and this is a really great place to get off, off the beaten track into the countryside. People watch, meet farmers, go on cycling tours, horseback riding, as you saw. And this is Trinidad, which is again just showing that it's not all about Havana. It's not just the single sort of city. This is a smaller city, and lovely to discover. Really good fun nightlife as well. So if the kids are a little bit older and want to go and do some dancing, then with the adults again, with the parents, then there's always somewhere to go. The Casa de la Música, which is one of the main places to go, is great for that. Lots of cultural things to do outside of the town as well, related to the revolution, which of course is another thing that makes Cuba fascinating for teenagers who might be getting into history. And you're never far from a beach. Cuba, of course, is such a great family destination because there are beaches throughout the country, and some good accommodation, from really quite simple, if that's what you're looking for, with fantastic snorkeling, or more kind of resort based where you can really sort of relax for a bit. So that was Cuba. I didn't get around to saying that the direct flight is coming back as well, which of course is great for anyone. But again, that's particularly family friendly, where there's no change of plane to get there. Similarly with Mexico, Mexico's also got 2 direct flights, and it's an absolutely amazing country. It's the first country I took my son to. He was 8 months old, of course, he loved it. He didn't really know much of what was going on, but we found it really, really easy to have a holiday for ourselves as well, particularly because it's the Yucatan area, which is one of the main highlights of the region, where you'll see lots of ruins, where there's jungle, beautiful beaches, a bit of a party scene if you want it, or as we went for, really just a sort of laid back island with no cars on it. But what I was going to say about Yucatan that's particularly great for visiting as a family is it's very easy to hire a car and drive around, do it at your own pace, which is precisely what we did. The city itself, these pictures are from Mexico City, and it's somewhere that, I mean, I spent 4 nights there with our 8-month-old, but there's loads to do for children. The lucha libre, the wrestling up in the top right, is really an iconic sort of sport that everyone is absolutely mad about, and you know, lots of our clients and particularly families will go and watch a lucha libre show or wrestling match. But then just north of the city, you've got the biggest pyramid in the Americas at Teotihuacan. Bottom left, lots of music on a Sunday, and completely forgotten what the name of the place is near Coyoacán, but yeah, really atmospheric, really fun, great museums if kids are into that, but lots of activities, cultural activities, as well as out of town activities to do. So then Yucatan, I'm jumping around a bit here, but these images are all from Yucatan, where I was saying is a great area to hire a car and visit ruins, some of the loveliest beaches along the Riviera Maya, and great for snorkeling. In fact, if you're there over the summer holidays, then it's one of the best places to see whale sharks, either just off the coast of Holbox, which is the small island I was referring to, of which, in fact, that's a picture of me on the top right with my partner and little boy in Holbox, but really good for whale shark snorkeling, and also a vibrant, you know, quiet sort of low-key nightlife, but a fun nightlife. You know, definitely somewhere that older children will enjoy with their parents. So I couldn't recommend Mexico highly enough. It was the first place I went to as a family, and I know for sure I'll be going back with my kids again. Once they're a bit older, then they'll be able to really appreciate what they're seeing as opposed to last time. So my slide is stuck on here. Yes, so in fact, when I say I'll definitely be going back to Mexico, I will be trying to get there for half term 1 year when the kids are a little bit older, because that's when the Day of the Dead festivities take place, and of course an important festival throughout the country, but really colourful and fascinating. The relationship that you know, the Mexicans have with the death of, you know, very light-hearted and sort of deep relationship, but in a colourful, joyous, you know, party. And yeah, again, it's certainly something that I'd like to go to. These are just a couple of pictures just to remind me to say the food in Mexico is really good. In fact, that's my partner with our little boy just getting some fresh fruit for him. But we ate a lot on the street stalls in Mexico City, and a couple of really nice restaurants that we went to. And being so family friendly, actually, one thing we enjoyed, and this is applicable to whether your children are really quite young or, you know, older, you know, it doesn't matter what time of the night it is, children are welcome, families always welcome. So, you know, we really enjoyed that, going to nice restaurants in Mexico City where, you know, going to the equivalent of in London, you might not feel quite as at ease, but you're made to feel really welcome, both by the other people, the other diners, as well as, you know, the restaurants themselves. And the food is amazing, really is inventive and delicious.
Thanks, Ben. So I'm going to be talking to you now about Baja California, and if any of you came to the Virtual Travel Club on the wildlife of Latin America, you would have heard me talk with lots of passion about Baja California, because it truly is a very unique destination to visit. It often is overlooked because Mexico tends to be where most people want to venture to. And so for those who don't know, Baja California is this very thin, knobbly peninsula that leads down from the mainland of California, and it's separated by the Sea of Cortez on the right, and of course mainland Mexico. And a lot of people tend to visit it for its beaches and also its wildlife, but particularly to see the whales. And one of the best times of the year is to see the whales which migrate to the warmer waters of Mexico, either from Alaska or from Antarctica, is from January to March. So if you can coincide your visit with that time of the year, you would certainly not be disappointed. So you can go to see the blue whale, the largest mammal on Earth, or humpback whales. They're a little bit harder to spot, but if you're patient, you definitely will have the chance to spot them. But it's the picture here that you see of the grey whales is where you'll have the most extraordinary experience. I always imagined when I went to Baja California, it was my first whale watching experience, I would be, with the binoculars staring out into the middle of the ocean, trying to get a little glimpse of a fin or a tail. But these creatures are ever so curious. They're not shy at all. As you can see, this is a really typical experience. You're in your little boat and they come up and they want to say, well, not say hello, but they're really curious to see you. And so you can get some amazing photographs. It's quite an extraordinary experience to be, and quite humbling to be next to such a large creature. So it's a wonderful experience for families, couples, grown-ups alike. So after you've visited or you've seen the whales, then what you can do is go and sit back and relax on one of these lovely, beautiful beaches. So Baja California is mostly desert. It's very barren and dry, but so it's really nice to stick to the coast. They're peppered with these beautiful bays. This is in fact a picture of the island of Espiritu Santo, which is in the Sea of Cortez. It's quite close to a city called La Paz. And from here, you can do wonderful day trips, but I really, really encourage you to go with your family and do a kayaking trip. We offer 3 days or 7-day kayaking trips where you can circumnavigate around the uninhabited island. The stars at night are absolutely to die for. You camp on the beach every night. You don't have to have any experience in kayaking. It's the sea is extremely calm, and you just have this amazing marine wildlife beneath your kayak. You can snorkel with sea lions. It really is a wonderful, wonderful place to do that, and really, get away from the town, disconnect your teenagers from their Xbox, PlayStation, and this is a real place that they can have a true adventure. So again, here just another images of the sea lions, and this is all, it's not difficult to come by. So you'd certainly have this type of experience, and you can see the water's the amazing colours, and it's perfectly calm and crystal clear. So I really, really, I encourage anybody to do that trip to Mexico. You won't regret it. Belize, I travelled here in 2016, sadly not with my family, but I certainly realised that it's a fantastic destination to be with the family. Belize is a really small country. It's just south of Mexico. Really easy to get around. It's English speaking. Literally, I think there's only 4 roads in Belize, and so you're never, when you travel around, you're only ever maybe a few hours from your next location. But actually, a really good way to travel in Belize is on these small light aircrafts, and there it's a really good, sort of fantastic, like James Bond experience, getting into this little, almost like a private plane, and sort of hopping, because you don't, they take off not from airports, they're more like landing strips. So you'll have like this, a field, a shed, somebody checks you in, and then off you go. So they're brilliant, and you're only looking at maybe 20 minutes. They're really, really good fun. But Belize is a great destination to combine the reef, and rainforest. So it's home to this world's 2nd largest barrier reef, and I'll show you some pictures of the stunning blue hole and the aquamarine seas. But also, you're just literally a couple of hours away from rainforest adventures. This particular area I'm showing you here is of the Cayo district in Belize, but there are lots of other rainforest areas that you can visit, and you'll never have the sense that you're in a crowded area with lots of tourists. It's really, really low key. So you can do a number of fantastic adventures in the forest, whether it's a zip lining or caving or tubing, canoeing, kayaking, taking a mountain bike up to visit some Mayan ruins. There's plenty to see and do, plenty to keep you busy and on your feet. And all around you, you have beautiful exotic birds and incredible wildlife. So it's a really special adventure. You see lots of Mayan temples, Mexico, Guatemala, but I found the temples that I visited in Belize, the one on the picture below is of Caracol, and the one above is of Lamanai, which is further north. It's quite relatively close to Belize City. But you have the sense when you visit these places, you literally, apart from you and maybe a handful of other people, you'll find you'll have the place to yourself. So really, when I talk about, you know, Belize is a great destination to have a true Indiana Jones experience, it really is like that. Yeah, it's just very special. And keeping on topic with food, following on from what Ben was saying about the street food, Belize there are a mixture of cultures in Belize. So you'll have Garifunas, you'll have Creole, Caribbean, Mayan. And so the mix of food that you get, you'll have lovely tacos, fresh seafood. So it's really, really delicious food, but also cacao, chocolate is grown in Belize. And so if you head south to the Toledo district, you'll be able to share an experience like no other. You'll not only visit a cacao plantation, which you can do in many places in Central and South America, but you'll learn from the Mayan communities techniques of how they used to roast the coffee beans and grind them using their old techniques. And you'll actually be able to have the opportunity to try this yourself and sample chocolate. And it's quite an unusual experience or unforgettable experience. The first time I tasted chocolate without any sugar in it, you know, it's quite powerful and very nice, but you know, you realize how much sugar goes into normal chocolate. And then of course, why not finish on Ambergris Caye or the lovely beaches around Plasencia. You have these beautiful crystal clear waters. You can just head off from your hotel room or your beautiful tented camp on the beach, step into the sea, and it's just picture perfect. And so yeah, you definitely won't be disappointed. This is spotting manatees of Plasencia, and the top right hand corner is a new kayaking adventure we've started offering in Belize from Glover's Reef. So you sleep on it's more like glamping really. You sleep there on the island and literally with the water lapping at your tent door, and you can do stand-up paddle boarding. I mentioned kayaking, but various other different water sports, and it's yeah, really beautiful place to be doing those activities. So without further ado, I'll hand you over to Ben now, who's going to talk to you about Costa Rica.
Great. So Costa Rica is is an amazing country. It's somewhere I've never been with my kids, but it was a tight sort of decision between our April holiday going to Costa Rica or Brazil. I decided to save Costa Rica because I thought that, fortunately working in the industry, I know I'll be back, and I thought perhaps I'll wait until they're a little bit older so that they can really enjoy the, the soft adventure that's on option or that's available to kids, probably from about 9 years upwards, depending on exactly what you want to do. All these pictures here are from San Jose, so you can fly directly to San Jose with British Airways for a good portion of the year, which makes it really, really accessible. And then from San Jose, you're within very easy striking distance from seeing this incredible crater, Poas, which is amazing sort of sulphurous, bubbling hot mud. Lots of rafting options. I'm getting all sorts of strange noises. I don't know if everyone can hear these strange noises, but putting me off a little bit. So rafting, there are a number of different rivers that offer whitewater rafting. So from the age of 9 upwards, you can go rafting, either a gentle float through incredible rainforest scenery, or for older kids and adults looking for more adrenaline focused rafting, then up to grades 3 and 4, and wildlife everywhere. It doesn't really matter where you go in Costa Rica, you will see wildlife abundant and really easy to spot. So I think that's the main reason really why Costa Rica is so family friendly, is because I think all children and adults generally love these sort of natural wildlife experiences. So yeah, next slide. So here we go. This is just one example of a place that you can go to that's mainly wildlife focused. So this is on the Caribbean coast at a place called Tortuguero, where all the different lodges are really just you know, in the jungle, right next to the Caribbean coast. Although actually this part of the Caribbean is not an area that you go swimming. You need to go further south in Costa Rica for the sort of swimming beaches. But the wildlife in Tortuguero is incredible. You know, you go on these they call them lanchas, small sort of boat rides through the you know, through the rivers, and you know, very easy to spot the animals that are shown here. So you know, sloths, caiman, pretty much guaranteed, and lots of these colourful tree frogs, lots of different poison arrow frogs as well. So it's a fantastic experience. Kids absolutely love it, as do adults. Like I said, I haven't been here with my kids yet, but so, and this is just one of a number of different rainforest places that you can go to in Costa Rica, depending how long you're wanting to go for, and you know, what your main interests are. Costa Rica is also really well known for being one of the best places to see turtles. So you know, depending what time of the year you go, you might go to Tortuguero, or you know, if you're you know, if you're going in the summer months, summer school holidays, then Tortuguero is great for that. Other times of the year, you can head over the Pacific side. Lots of places where you can see turtles and whales as well. So it's not only about the cloud forest and the rainforest wildlife, it's also about the coastal and marine life. So these pictures here are from Monteverde, which is you know, very well known for bird watchers, astonishing array of birds, but it's also in the last 10 years or so become a great hub for soft adventure. So canopy walkways and zip lines. I think I'd say probably 90% of the people that we talk to about a holiday in Costa Rica, whether it's a family or not, are keen to go zip lining, and Costa Rica is probably the best place for it. And the guides in Costa Rica as well, it's worth mentioning, are really, really good. Their you know, wildlife guides are amongst the very best in the whole of Latin America. It's a small country as well, so you can get around quite easily, either by private transfers, or also we have some self-drive itineraries for those that prefer the flexibility of you know, the self-drive holiday, which I think personally works really well with families, particularly if the kids are sort of on the younger side, perhaps. But yeah, as I said, it's a small country, so you're never really doing big, long journeys, and I think that's something that makes it a great destination for you know, half-term breaks, or you know, or a couple of weeks out of the main holidays. These pictures again just illustrate the you know, the soft adventure available. These are all around a place called Arenal, which is also where you can see a classic volcano, perfectly formed conical volcano. Wildlife everywhere, of course, but the soft adventure is probably what brings most people here, because the options are endless, really, and lots of you know, lots of excursions that aren't shown on these photos. You can also go horse riding, and you know, and kayaking, and so on. Also, beautiful scenery. You can see Arenal in the top right. Photos never do Arenal justice. There's a good reason why it's on everyone's you know, everyone's sort of highlights list for a visit to Costa Rica, because it really is an impressive volcano. Waterfalls, you know, swimming in waterfall pools. There really is a huge amount to do, and like I mentioned earlier, there is coast both on the southern Caribbean side, which is more kind of Caribbean flavour, you know, sort of beach shacks and you know, great coral reefs and white sand beaches. Then over on the Pacific side, there's again lots of different kinds of beaches. Up in the north, it's quite dry, and a great place to learn to surf. Further south, it's a bit more rainforesty, you know, where you can you know, for instance, stay in a beach hotel that is right next to a national park. So you can combine that sort of beach and, you know, beach R&R, stay with the option to be a bit more sort of adventurous, going into the national parks to spot wildlife, or you know, to do the you know, other sort of endless possibilities, rafting and zip lining and so on. So definitely up there on my list to take my 2 kids, but we're going to Brazil first. So the next place, well, these are the top 5 destinations we've chosen as being family friendly in South America. So Ecuador and Galapagos, which I'm going to talk about, and then Laura will talk about Peru and Chile, I believe, and then I'll talk about Argentina and Brazil. So Ecuador and Galapagos, I've been really lucky to have been to well, Ecuador countless times, but Galapagos 3 times, and it is absolutely amazing. There's good reason that that it's so well known throughout the world as a must-see destination. But Ecuador itself is also not to be missed. You know, in Ecuador, you've got the high Andes, and you know, just a short flight from, you know, so high Andes is of course impressive for snow-capped volcanoes and mountains and really colourful markets, amazing scenery, and you know, sort of beautiful road journeys. Just 45 minutes or so flight from Quito, which is up in the Andes. You can access the Amazon proper. So with no effort at all, really, you can be right in the sort of humid, steaming Amazon for a complete sort of different experience. And I think that's one place where Ecuador and Galapagos really stand out as a holiday, is just, you know, different experiences that you can fit into a single holiday, from high Andes to you know, enjoying the scenery and some of the ruins to the Amazon, which is all about the wildlife and learning about the indigenous communities that live there, supporting those communities as well, because the lodges that we use on the whole are owned by the local communities, and it's an important part of their income. And then, you know, suddenly one day in the Amazon, you know, spend a night in Quito in between, and then fly off for a couple of hours to the Galapagos. And the Galapagos, I don't think anyone can't absolutely love the Galapagos, but children are absolutely blown away by it, and children of all ages, really. I think to get the most out of it, you probably want your kids to be sort of, you know, 7 years old and upwards. But you know, obviously it's a really educational destination, but you know, the proximity to which you can get to the animals is incredible. You know, the lack of natural predators, the wildlife is just simply not scared. So all of these photos are, you know, realistic images that you could yourselves take home. Even you don't have to be a great photographer, because it's all literally there within, I was going to say within touching distance. Obviously you don't touch, but within reaching distance. And the experience also is not just about what you can see on the islands and on the land, but it's also below the ocean. You know, whoever goes to the Galapagos and you know, and does some snorkeling is pretty much bound to see you know, sea lions. Often, you know, the sea lion pups are really playful and come and swim all around you. Lots of tropical fish. You can see sharks as well. I'm glad to say the kind of safe variety that you know, that you can snorkel amongst lots of big schools of rays. Absolutely amazing. And there are options for advanced or adventurous snorkelers, as well as, you know, people who are perhaps inexperienced or unsure about it. So you can do quite simple sort of snorkeling excursions from the beach shore and see turtles all around you, and be in water that's, you know, that's you know, up to an adult's you know, sort of stomach. So really, really amazing. And accommodation wise, most people probably go on a cruise, but increasingly, so an expedition cruise, not to be confused with the sort of cruise, you know, vast, great big cruises that are all glitzy. Expedition cruises are all about what you're going to see. But increasingly popular are land-based visits, so island hopping. And for instance, I stayed in the accommodation that's shown on the bottom right here, and it was amazing waking up and you literally have these giant tortoises you know, sleeping under your cabin because they've put sort of hay there because they like to get the shade. Really incredible. I mean, not many places where you can do that. So yeah, definitely somewhere that I would highly recommend taking a family, and it's a memorable destination. So we do lots of multi-generational holidays there too, where there's grandparents with parents and grandchildren, because it's such an iconic, special place to go.
Thanks, Ben. So now heading over to Peru. I'm going to tell you about, well, Peru has it all. It's a destination that you can spend your whole time there, or of course you can combine it with other destinations like Bolivia and Chile, but it encompasses so much that is South America. Not only is it home to one of the most iconic sites in South America, Machu Picchu, but also it's a great place to experience the jungle, the Amazon, which is on its doorstep, amazing cuisine, lovely beaches. It's also home to the world's deepest canyon and also the highest navigable lake. It's culturally extremely rich. You can meet lots of different indigenous communities, learn about their weavings, have a go at trying to do a weaving yourself. You're also at Lima, which is the capital on the coast, is in the desert. Not far from Lima, you can head to a place called Paracas or Nazca. You can try some sandboarding down a desert dune. So it's a country with lots and lots of experiences on offer. But if we get stuck into what those might be, so this is, for example, here are the Andes, and the mountain landscape, the sense of being of open space, being in the middle of a wilderness, is truly, truly unique and memorable. There are many ways to hike to Machu Picchu. This is showing you the two routes. The bottom picture on the left-hand corner is the actual Inca Trail, and the larger image showing you the volcano lake, and the top left is the Salcantay route there. So there are two ways of reaching Machu Picchu. If you don't want to hike or do a 4-day hike, there's an option to do what we call the mini Inca Trail, which takes just about it takes roughly 6 hours depending on your level of ability. But if you don't fancy doing a hike to Machu Picchu, there are opportunities to take the train. So from the Sacred Valley, you're only about an hour and a half away, depending on where you're staying. So it's very, very easily accessible, and it's a great place to visit. Also, as generally as a rule, we like to base people in the Sacred Valley, and more we're trying to encourage people to spend more time in the Sacred Valley than in the city of Cusco. So Cusco is the city you fly into, and it's known as the gateway to Machu Picchu. But Cusco is at quite a high altitude, and so we find that when you travel if you head straight to the Sacred Valley, which is lower than Cusco and it's closer to Machu Picchu, we find that your whole acclimatization experience is much easier on the system. And this area is beautiful. It's lush and green. You can visit the Maras salt pans, which you can see in the top left hand corner, or you can visit archaeological sites like the one below, which is of Moray, and you can learn about all the different terracings that the Incas used to create so that they could they could grow their potatoes and their corn, and depending on the level of the altitude would depend or dictate what vegetable that they would grow. Quinoa as well, which is now one of the superfoods which is very popular here to eat in the UK. But yeah, it's a very, very beautiful destination to do hikes and take in beautiful landscape, as well as combine it with the wonderful Machu Picchu. And of course, Peru is home to Paddington Bear. We all know he came from deepest, darkest Peru. And there is a great opportunity, although it's well, you'll be lucky to spot a spectacled bear in the wild. There is a lodge down in the village below Machu Picchu that is a sanctuary for spectacled bears. So if you stay there, you'll also have the opportunity to go in and say hello to these beautiful, beautiful bears. But also, it's not just the spectacled bear that you can see at Machu Picchu. You have llamas, you have alpacas, you have condors. So there's lots of different other wildlife. Oh, in fact, Machu Picchu is actually located in the cloud forest, so there's lots of opportunities to see hummingbirds as well. And Machu Picchu is beautiful at any time of the day that you visit, whether it's the morning or the late afternoon. The sunlight is just fantastic. And then moving on from Machu Picchu, again, a few hours maybe by train or by road, you can access the Colca Canyon. This is a beautiful, beautiful canyon, probably the best place to spot condors. And you get really, really close. And these pictures just don't do the size of the condor justice. They're humongous birds. But this whole area is just a great place for taking in wonderful landscapes, doing lots of walking. And of course, Peruvian cuisine is probably known, and it is actually, I mean, I'm slightly biased. My husband is from Lima, and we're fortunate that his sisters still live in Lima. So we do go out to Peru relatively often, but the food there is really, really delicious, and kids can sample on beef kebabs and mild chicken curries, and then the bottom right is a dish called lomo saltado, which is like a beef stir fry with peppers and chips and served with rice. So there's lots of friendly family options for food for kids, but of course they may not be keen on the olives, so you can always just pick those off. And of course something for the adults, as after you've had a very, very long day, you're going to want to sit back and kick back with a pisco sour, Peru's national cocktail, which is absolutely delicious. So that's something for the adults. Now heading to Chile, and I'll hand you over to Ben.
Great. I can remember if I was doing Chile. But yeah, so Chile, I was last there when we were pregnant, actually, with my son. So I haven't been there with our children, but it's a really popular family destination. Probably more for children who are a bit older and who are going to really make the most of the outdoors, because Chile is unbelievably scenic. Of course, the geography is slightly ridiculous, the longest country in the world. And so up in the far north, you've got the Atacama Desert. These are pictures of the Atacama Desert. So as you can see from the pictures, it's not just sand dunes, it's really it's a desert because it's medium to high altitude and receives little rain, but the landscapes are absolutely superb and so diverse. I couldn't believe the first time I went there, because I think I wasn't expecting it to be quite so colourful. I wasn't expecting to see as much wildlife as I did. Flamingos on the lakes, lots of alpacas and viscachas, which are kind of, how do you describe a viscacha? It's like almost like a giant rabbit, rodent. But great for wildlife, great for scenery, and again, really good for being active. So you can be as active as you want. Lots of lovely, relatively short half-day mountain bike rides, or horse riding, all half-day to full-day hikes. Differing difficulties, but what you're guaranteed of whatever excursion you do is that you're going to see some really varied landscape from one day to the next. The hissing geysers, of course, I think is something that everyone who goes to Atacama wants to see up at El Tatio. It's also the most indigenous part of the country, so there is a little of that sort of indigenous colour. Talking of sort of indigenous and Chile, the other area that has got a bit of indigenous culture is the Lake District, which is south of Santiago. So these pictures are all different parts of the Lake District. You can see that it's again quite varied. Again, it's an outdoors country. I don't think anyone who is not an outdoorsy person, whether their interest be photography or hiking or seeing lakes and volcanoes and so on, if you're not interested in those things, then it probably wouldn't appeal. But for those that are, then it is absolutely amazing. That photo on the right, I think, was one that I took when I was last there. And just stunning walk through this sort of temperate rainforest, you know, stumbling across these incredible waterfalls and crystalline rivers. What you can't hear is the bird sound. And yeah, it's just a great place to reconnect with nature. And so for a family holiday with older children, I think it's you know, it's perfect, particularly if you're an outdoors and active family. So these pictures are from Torres del Paine. The one on the left is a classic hike that you can do from your base in a lodge. It's a full day hike. When I did it, I was there with a family from California. I think the ages ranged from about 15 to 21, and they were having an absolutely amazing time. They were hikers, they were outdoorsy people, and you know, they absolutely loved it. And we were lucky we didn't see puma, but the group that had gone before us did. It's becoming increasingly common to see puma, particularly in the winter months, because of all the environmental sort of protection efforts that have gone into you know, protecting their habitat. So yeah, there's wildlife there too. You're bound to see condors, and so then, you know, a completely varied experience. As I said, you've gone from the north, you know, seeing the deserts, and then the center of the country, the lakes, and then the far south, which is glaciers, and, you know, doing boat rides right up to the front of these huge sheer sort of glacier faces. And then suddenly you feel that you're in the South Pacific when you, you know, go to Rapa Nui or Easter Island, which is, of course, a really mystical destination. I think it captures, you know, people's imagination, but is also, you know, a great place for, if you go in the right time of year, great place for enjoying the beaches. You can go, you know, go swimming. You can also do scuba diving, you know, for those that might be interested. But on the whole, most people probably go here again for sort of walking amongst these incredible statues, you know, visiting the quarries where they were dug out from, and learning how on earth this civilization survived out here, how they, you know, built the statues, how they moved them around. So yeah, really varied, and you know, very much worth going. I'd say the only downside from a family point of view, if the kids are younger, or if they're older but, you know, don't want to do too much traveling, you're probably about you're looking at about a 3 to 4 hour flight to get to Rapa Nui from Santiago. So it's not for everyone, but if you're going away for you know, a longer trip, then I would certainly recommend it. And Chile often combines with Argentina. I'd probably say probably 70% of our travellers will combine the two countries, and that's because the borders, there are lots of places along that long Chilean border that you can cross into Argentina. Argentina is, you know, is as varied as Chile, but you know, if we're looking at the attractions that Argentina holds that Chile doesn't, I would probably say Iguazu Falls are one of the really obvious ones. Well, I'll do it in order of the slide. So Buenos Aires, the city of Buenos Aires is really vibrant, really grand, great restaurants. Being, you know, Catholic Latin America, families are welcome everywhere. You know, if you're there for the weekend, you'll just see all the families just hanging out and, you know, going to the parks and, you know, buying ice cream and, you know, just enjoying themselves. And it's actually really nice just participating in that, watching it. Of course, if you're football mad, then you know, it's got the famous you know, Boca Juniors. You can go and watch a football match, or if there's not a football match on at the same time, it's possible to visit the stadium. You know, if anyone in the family is football mad, yeah, and nightlife as well in Buenos Aires. You know, either for the grown-ups or for the older children. loads of options. It doesn't matter which part of the city you're in, you're always going to find interesting and fun bars. Iguazu Falls was what I was saying was very different from Chile. It's classic sort of tropical environment, absolutely amazing waterfalls. So in fact, I can't wait to. I'm going there in April with my 3 and soon to be 6-year-old. So I have no doubt that this is somewhere that everyone will enjoy. But loads of adventurous things you can do with the younger kids. You can walk along on these walkways and get really, really close to the biggest parts of the falls. There's a great excursion called the Mapuco Safari, which is part 4x4 through the rainforest, and then board a speedboat, where you're bound to get a bit wet, but where you can get really close up to some of the not the biggest parts of the falls, of course, but some of the other falls. Helicopter rides. I'm not sure about helicopter rides for myself, but my son caught wind of the fact that that it can be done, and he's pretty convinced that we're going to be doing that, so perhaps we will. And then the Lake District in Argentina again it borders the Chilean side, but it tends to be a really good summer resort destination. So when I was there last would have been April, May, and the weather was stunning, just like these photos show. Lots of swimming in the lakes and just relaxing on these lovely sort of beaches. We had a hire car as well, and in fact both Chile and Argentina are both really self-drive friendly, good roads, really easy to get around, and if it's carefully planned, then the distances don't need to be particularly particularly long or onerous. Although I have to say, even when you do have a long day journey, if that's where you plan it, as we did, I mean, you just stop everywhere taking pictures and enjoying the scenery. So yeah, fantastic. And the Valdez Peninsula is another part of Argentina that's particularly good for marine life. So massive colonies of Magellanic penguins, really good for seeing the whales, southern right whales. Named the southern right whale because they were sadly very easy to hunt because they're inquisitive and not timid. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen anymore. But the name just indicates how close you can get to them and how sure you are to see them. Lots of fur seals and actually really, really lovely scenery as well. The pictures never quite do it justice, but the feeling of huge open skies and wilderness are incredible. So yeah, Valdez is, for anyone who's particularly keen on wildlife, Valdez is certainly somewhere to consider. And then, similar to the experience that I was describing in Torres del Paine in southern Chile, just literally across the border, you've got Calafate, which is an absolute must for anyone that wants to go to Patagonia. So famous for Perito Moreno Glacier, which is the picture on the bottom right, and you can go really from quite a young age. I forget the exact age. You can go hiking on top of the ice. All very safe. I've done it as well. Well organised and. Yeah, it's amazing. Just in fact, what we find on top of the glacier, all this sort of crystal clear sort of lagoons and so on is really amazing. So sorry, that flipped onto Brazil, but yeah, again, great for hiking countries. But this is where I think going back to the previous slide, just quickly, Chalten is similar to Torres del Paine, but is somewhere where you tend to do day hikes into the national park, up amongst all that scenery, and then come back to your hotel in a small climbing town afterwards, which is really nice because you're out and about during the day in the wilderness, and then the small climbing town has got lots of lovely little cafes and a couple of bars and so on. So yeah, it's got a good mix of that, that kind of experience.
That's great, Ben. And now we saved the best to last, of course, a destination that's very close to my own heart, being the country where my mother was born and grew up in. And also I was very fortunate from the age of 7 to spend many of my summer holidays in Brazil, particularly in Rio and just south on an island called Florianopolis. It's a wonderful destination. Of course, I'm saying that about all of the places that, you know, we've talked to you about this evening, but Brazil truly is. It has a magic about it. When you arrive in Rio, there's that excitement. You can almost hear the samba in the streets, the drumming. You have these beautiful sunsets. There's not many cities in this world where you have outcrops of mountains growing in a city, rainforest, jungle. It's a natural lagoon. So it's a really magical city, and it's quite justifiably known as one of the most beautiful cities in the world. And of course, when you're in Rio, you have to go to Christ the Redeemer. You have to take the cable car, ride the cable car up to the Sugarloaf Mountain. And it's just, yeah, it's very, very brilliant, vibrant city to spend time in. But also you can fly direct with British Airways, so that makes the journey a lot easier. And so, yep, here are some lovely images of the wonderful Rio, Copacabana Beach, Ipanema Beach, and most people would tend to spend 2 or 3 nights there. You can certainly spend longer depending on how much time you have. There's definitely plenty to see and do. For wildlife adventures, you're just a short flight away from the Pantanal, either Campo Grande or Cuiabá, where you can have, again, an extraordinary wildlife experience. So some people, in the Amazon, you have great wildlife opportunities, but for an even better wildlife opportunity of spotting things like capybaras, armadillos, giant anteaters, you really should head to the Pantanal. And we recommend maybe staying 3 or 4 nights for an ultimate wildlife extravaganza there.
It's worth adding that, sorry to interrupt, that the Pantanal is probably the best place in South America or Latin America to see jaguar. You know, depending which lodge you go to, really high chance of seeing them.
Yep.
Much to my son's disappointment, because we're not going there and he's convinced he's going to see a jaguar in Iguazu, but I've told him that's unlikely.
Yeah, that's an extremely good point. Yeah, the jaguars, especially in the southern Pantanal, you have there's a project that you can stay at a lodge called Refugio Caiman, and they have they work very closely with a jaguar rewilding project. So you have a very good chance of seeing them there. But like as Ben was saying, actually access to it, although it's only a short hop away on a flight, really to access these lodges, you're looking at a journey time of around 3 to 4 hours. So for taking a young child there, it's quite a long trip to do, but certainly for teenagers or older teenagers, I'm sure that they'll love the journey. And the transfer is not just, you know, sitting in a car for 4 hours, just, you know, looking out at nothing. It's like a safari experience in itself. The guide will be stopping, saying, oh, look at these hyacinth macaws and different types of birds, jabiru storks. So it feels like an excursion rather than an actual transfer. Heading to the northeast of Brazil, Salvador, which is a beautiful colonial city, lots of different coloured pasteled houses. It's again a very strong African influence. So you've got a totally different type of culture from what you've experienced in the Pantanal, which is very geared up to a sort of a gaucho cowboy culture, very different again as well from Rio. But from Salvador, you can access beautiful beaches. You can access the Chapada Diamantina National Park, which is this a national park characterized by these tabletop mountains, crystalline pools, caves. Again, great place to go hiking. And just going to finish off here, because I know that we've gone over our time, so I'm just conscious of taking up too much of your time now. We really recommend, just if you don't want to do lots of flying, because Brazil is a very big country, then just from Rio, you're just a few hours away from beautiful beaches such as Ilha Grande, a lovely island known as the Big Island, but it's a beautiful island. It's a car-free island, great for wildlife, beautiful little tranquil bays. In fact, the picture you can see of my two here, Anthony and Carmen, that was taken in Parachi, with lots of beautiful cobbled streets. And the bays there, it's perfect for going with young children, in fact, because the sea is very calm and the water is very warm, and it's a very nice relaxed atmosphere in the evening. You can go and have coffee and ice cream and whatever the drink of your choice is, but it's a really very beautiful place to just go and unwind for a few days, and it's very, very accessible from Rio. So remember, you're just a few hours away, and you're in this beautiful coastal scenery. Well,
also adding there just quickly, Laura, that it's one of the few places where we organise villa accommodation. On the whole, we tend to focus more on lodges and hotels, but there's a really great villa that is 20-minute boat ride away from Paraty, set right on the coast. I think it's 3 bedrooms and it can accommodate 6 to 8 people. But that's probably the one of the most popular family options that we use in this area. So if that appeals, then great. It can be self-catering, but equally they've got a maid that that can prepare evening meals, and then you're just free to go and explore the bays and so on in the evening. During the day, and pop into Paraty for the evening. Really good option.
Yeah, no, fantastic option. We stayed there, so yeah, it definitely gets the thumbs up from us. Okay, so we're just going to finish off now for the evening. We have one question, Ben, which I'm going to hand over to you about Costa Rica. When is the best time to visit? One of our viewers would like to know.
Okay, so Costa Rica, I mean, I would probably say that most people want to go during the dry season, which would be from sort of December through to May. So that's when there's the least amount of rainfall. Although, of course, you're in the tropics, so you will get rain throughout the year, but that's when there's least rainfall. But perhaps one of the reasons that's most popular is because after that time it really, really heats up. So depending where you're going, those sort of more temperate tropical climates might be best. But having said that, we send lots of, organise lots of family holidays during the summer months, July and August, which is hot and humid, but you tend to find that an afternoon downpour every once in a while brings the temperatures down, and it's also the best time for seeing some of the marine life, so particularly turtle nesting and hatching over and towards Aguero. I know I may have slightly contradicted myself there, but really, to a certain extent, you can consider it year-round, with the exception of I wouldn't go myself in October and November, because there's a sharp sort of increase in the amount of rain in those 2 months. But really, outside of those months, dry season the most popular. Other months, as long as you're happy with the odd heavy downpour, then absolutely fine. And if you are particularly geared towards seeing turtles and whales, then that will dictate, and that will likely be the summer months, certainly for turtles.
Fantastic. Well, thank you ever so much, Ben, and thank you to everybody who've joined us today. And